Hello, I'm ABX Toycam. Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about trees in Minecraft. That's right, trees, everybody's favorite subject, right? Or perhaps just mine. And the reason we're talking about them is because when it comes to planting trees, because you need them for a creative build or a map or something, you usually get a massive amount of variance, which you don't want. You might want a specific tree like this, or you might want a massive tree like this, but you don't actually get to choose if you plant the sapling. Likewise, trying to make your own trees can be kind of a mess, so I figured what I'd show you in today's video is first of all how to guarantee you'll get a big tree out of a sapling rather than one of these tiny little trees, and second of all, I figured I'd show you how to make your own tree from scratch if you want to make an even bigger tree than that. So yeah, two useful little tips to do with trees in Minecraft. Hopefully you do all enjoy the video. If you do, please do like it and let me know, because it helps out the channel a lot and lets me know you have a great enthusiasm for trees and saplings like I do. But yeah, let's get straight into it, shall we? And let's start by going into the common knowledge that you might already know that doesn't really work too well, but can generally work especially if you don't have other stuff. So basically, the common knowledge to do with growing trees bigger is that if you plant a tree by itself, you're going to get a random sized tree, right? It could be any size, it could be that size, but if you plant, if you build it near a wall, like say like this, it has to be a certain height tall, and it's going to work like that. So I'll show you right now what's going to happen is it's going to do this, and as you can see, it is taller than it was before, and I mean, that's kind of nice, I guess, but it's still not quite, that type of tree right there. You have to do this several times to get the tree you want, and that's not everyone wants to do. Lots of people might want a bit more success than that, so what we're going to be showing you next is how to make it, but a little bit better. So this actually is a reasonably recent tip, and I guess, it's one that is a little bit less consistent and is harder to do in survival, but basically, if you plant if you use string, and then you put string on string, then string on string, and so on and so forth, and do that 4 layers up, and then put your sapling right next to it, not even just, a few blocks away, right here in the block where this is, basically what can happen is your tree will grow up, and because this is there, even though it's an invisible block that can be removed really easily later, when the tree does grow, as you can see, it makes this kind of short bit here, which you can always, rectify yourself, and then it makes the tree massive above that, because it forces the height, and it gives us this massive amount of oak wood, which means if you have a limited amount of saplings in survival, this is handy there too, but also if you just want to build something massive in creative, you can do that using string. So yeah, it is worth mentioning, like I said, these trees are a little bit harder to grow in survival, and they do take more bone meal to grow if you're doing it, unnaturally, but it is entirely worth it in my opinion, because, okay, there's the first time I've shown it. Let's get a second one, just to kind of prove that this is gonna, this is the most super deformed tree ever, but it does actually have a massive success rate, as I'll show you with this fourth one, and as you can see, this is gonna work. I can guarantee that right now, and yeah, it's a pretty cool thing in that way. So you can obviously use less string if you don't need it to be quite so tall, but you want it to be kind of tall, and you can use more string if you're okay with waiting a little bit longer. But yeah, there's another massive tree, all the wood in the world, and yeah, that's that. So every now and then you're going to end up with a terribly deformed tree like this, but for the most part, you're going to get massive trees like this, which if you want to make a forest, which, mostly consists of leaves, and actually looks kind of okay, or at least like Minecraft generated it, then you can do it like this, because as you can see, the gap between these two is kind of making a big overarching forest, and if we do the same over here, I'm sure we can make that even bigger and even better. So just one more time, just to show you it is consistent, and it's more than 2/3, and instead more than 3/4, because again, I did a bunch of testing, and like 9 out of 10 trees I did the first time worked like this, and boom, you can see 3 out of the 4, even in this video, have created this, and with just a little bit more leafing, you can make just an entirely roof forest using just 3 or 4 trees rather than using other saplings. So yeah, that's that right there. That's how you can make oak trees grow taller in Minecraft. All you have to do is place them next to string. In case you do not know already, just as a little pro tip, if you want to make big trees of another type, dark oak, jungle, and the spruce sapling, the spruce ones most people don't know, if you actually just plant 4 of these together, you can make them bigger that way. So if you really want a big tree that's, spruce for instance, then all you have to do is this, and boom, you get yourself a giant tree. Same works for jungle, and it kind of works for dark oak, because they need to be enforced, and yeah, that's that. But if you need a taller oak sapling, you need a taller, birch sapling, and a taller acacia sapling, which is a little bit trickier, then yeah, this is something you can do by using string planted next to it, which doesn't seem like it'd work, but somehow it's like one of those sticks in real life, except it's made from string, which doesn't make any sense to me, but whatever. So let's move on from this onto the second part of today's video, which is actually on how you can actually make your own giant tree. So this is something that I've always struggled with. You might have seen, you might be able to see it from here, but basically I built trees several times before, and people just go, so yeah, those don't look like real trees. So I figured what I'd do is I'd actually look into how you make a big tree, and from the most part, I've seen quite a few little handy tips that you wouldn't normally figure. So you might think if you're trying to make a giant tree from oak wood, let's say, then you just make a tree like this, and then you try and put the stuff on top of it. But truth be told, I find this isn't the best way to make a giant tree, because this just kind of looks like you're trying to impersonate like a giant spruce tree or a jungle something. So what I find is best to do, and this is one of those tips that doesn't seem like it works until you do it, is to instead use a slightly off standard shape. So for instance, you can go with a cross shape like this, and then kind of build on from there, or another shape you can do is kind of like an octagon. So instead of the 2x2, make that that we had before, make it 2x2 with a big gap in the center. Something you do need to bear in mind is the bigger you go out, because you can make giant trees, like you can make them 100 block wide, and you've probably seen maps where people have done that. Something you need to bear in mind when you're doing that is the wider you make the tree, the taller you need to make it before it even starts to make sense. Because even at this height, the tree still looks a little bit short, right? Even though it's the same height as that. This is something you just have to work on. Same goes for this. You want to go up quite a few more blocks and just make sure that you kind of get the height to width ratio right. If you go too tall, you're going to look like you have a weird jungle tree. If you don't go tall enough, then you're going to end up looking not just great. So we'll go a couple extra blocks on here and then call that that. But yeah, let's also show you another tip that I realized. Because again, when you're making big trees like this, you can't just settle for like, oh, it goes into the ground like that. You need to kind of make it sprout out and, you know, have realistic kind of roots and whatnot. So again, if we just build a couple of this around there, but you want to make sure that so have a top layer that's built on top of the bottom one, but make the bottom one face outwards in some way. So go like this, place the top layer, go like, I don't know, this, place the top layer. Just make it, you know, go everywhere random like that. You know, that's always a good thing. Yeah, if you just keep on making the you know, the things go like that, then what you can kind of do is you can kind of simulate roots, because, you know, roots just go out in random directions like this. So we'll just, you know, for instance here we can go like this and kind of make a good thing. But yeah, roots just go out in random directions, and just if you put a little bit on top of some of the roots, then it kind of looks like the root is just coming straight from the tree. So again, we'll do a couple like there. And if you just make the, you know, again, entirely random directions, there's no real rhyme or reason to anything we're doing here, then there you can see with just a few simple blocks, maybe we need something here. I think we actually do. So if we just make this go over to there, and that go to there, and then put a block there. Boom, we've got ourselves a tree that has this, you know, this random asymmetry. I just planted it right there, but yet it still looks kind of like it's got some roots. And then if we just go off, make the loose, then boom, we've got ourselves a tree. And not only is it a tree, but you can also kind of make a secret entrance into this one. So for instance, here we could make it go down and underneath, and boom, you've got yourself a really cool little tree that also works as a little secret base. So just like that, yeah, and then you have a ladder in here that takes you to the top. You can do some kind of secret things that aren't necessarily obvious to everyone else, and even from here, it looks like it's just a normal tree. So yeah, those are some tips on how to grow trees in Minecraft. If you want to make taller trees, just plant the sapling next to some string. You can also do it next to some torches, but it's not quite so effective. So 4 string like that, and then boom, do it again. If you want to make trees by yourself, try to make it in a different shape. So the cross, the slightly weird octagon. If you just try, as long as it's not 2x2, it will look a little bit more realistic, I find. So we could do that here, by the way. And then finally, if you want to, you know, like kind of make it even more realistic than that, try and add some roots around it, because it gives it this kind of, you know, it gets thinner as it grows taller, and then that way you get yourself it still looks like it's Minecrafty, but it looks a little bit more realistic, and maybe that's what you want in your build. So yeah, I hope you did all enjoy today's video. Creative building isn't one of my strong suits in Minecraft, but there's a lot of stuff to do with it that's kind of cool. You know, I really love that little oak sapling trick, and hopefully you did all enjoy today's video. If you did like it, please do like it and let me know, because it helps out the channel a lot and lets me know you do like it, and you know, and like this video and want to see more like it. You know, like the building stuff. Share it if you really liked it, and subscribe if you're new around here. I make videos just like this one talking about Minecraft every single day on my channel, and if you subscribe, you'll see them daily on your homepage. So yeah, hopefully something in here has helped you in some way. Let me know in the comments what you think of 1, this video, and 2, just seeing more stuff like this in general. I don't know, but yeah, thank you all very much for watching, and goodbye.